I can fix her. As far as buying a used Audi, there are 3 rules. Commandments, really. Number 1, never trust that timing was dealt with. The seller probably lied. Number 2, never trust that turbos were replaced. The seller also probably lied. And number 3, the one to listen to above all else. No matter how fast, no matter how rare, no matter what, do not, under any circumstance, buy a first-generation RS6. Well, oops. I'm scared. Just about everything on this car that I can see needs work. It's further gone than anything I've ever touched, and that in itself is terrifying, but it's not what scares me. So what does? What about the reputation this car has? The fact that anyone who knows what it is would tell you to run from a good one. That it would not only bankrupt you, but be impossible to fix. And that's for a non-wrecked one. Well, that's scary too, but it's not it. What scares me is much, much worse. It was the fact that I already knew all this. I just, for some reason, still said yes.
180 miles per hour.
With manual shift handles.
God, it's fast. Twin turbocharged 4.2 litre.
In 2002, RS cars weren't just tuned-up base models. Back then, RS basically meant supercar competition. The third ever RS car was the RS6. 450 stock horsepower, $84,000 base price. Those are huge numbers today. In 2002, they were absurd. 8-piston Brembos shared with the Mercy, a twin-turbo V8 tuned by Cosworth, dynamic suspension, all of that in a family chassis that was never designed for this kind of power. The only thing holding it back was the fact that it only came in an auto. The true grail of this model? The wagon. Fastest in the world. That we were robbed of though. Stateside, we only ever got the sedan, plus a similarly rare S6 wagon, but allegedly that's nowhere near the same level of RS performance. It didn't have that soul. It was a car so different that the only commercial it ever received never actually had the car in it. Simply a man riding a bull, hanging on for dear life. Only 1,200 of these cars ever made it to the States, and nowadays, only a small fraction of those can still move. After all, it's not exactly an easy car to own. It was designed to push the boundaries of what was possible for a car at the time, and as is the case with any tech that does that, it came with quirks. Buying it was the cheap part. From the factory, the engine hardly fit, so just about every bit of real service starts by removing the entire drivetrain. Turbos need work? Pull the engine. Trans going bad? Pull the engine. It's not just the big jobs though. Heater lines? Pull the engine. Primary O2 sensors? Pull the engine. Valve cover gasket? Well, depends which side. Oh, and the timing belt service interval was 35,000 miles. The fancy dynamic suspension was problematic. The torque converter goes bad and takes out the trans. The intercoolers leak and take out the turbos. And given the 5 additional fluid radiators, leaks are guaranteed. Plus, sure hope you don't need any parts unique to this car, because they don't exist. That is terrifying, and that's why this car scares people. But go ahead and ask anyone who's driven one, even just once. They'd all concur. This car is special. It has the allure, that je ne sais quoi, that old school RS supercar soul, if you will. So even if its soul lives up to that high bar, why would I buy a wrecked one when the good ones hardly run? Am I that much of a masochist? Probably, but this decision was helped with one simple fact. I didn't buy this car. I bought 2 complete Audi manual swap kits. The previous owner just threw the car, in addition to all the parts he had for it, in with the deal. In other words, since I was going to buy a manual swap kit for another car anyways, in a way, this RS6 was almost free. And since it still allegedly runs, and came with so many parts, I might be able to fix it. Why would I not question the seller's claim that it's only as good as the parts it came with? Why not try and save it? To know if I can fix it, I need to inspect it. To inspect it, I need to get it in the garage. And to get it into the garage, it needs to roll and turn, which it can't currently do. Meaning, I need to fix it before I can tell if it can be fixed. Why do I care so much about it already? It's just an old Audi. It's like what I really care about isn't even the car itself. It's what's inside. I want to see if that RS soul lives up to the legends. So I need a plan. Step 1 to fixing this RS, a field diagnosis. I need the car to roll, turn, and, well, I guess that's about it. Problem 1 is 3 of the tires are flat. Maybe the fact that a lot of this is held on with zip ties has something to do with it. I can't imagine having a car this nice and using zip ties to fix it. In theory, getting the car to roll should be easy, but not in actuality. From looking at it, the fenders are so dented and messed up that they're cutting into both sides. So even if I swapped the ones to tires that weren't flat, the car wouldn't turn or roll because the fenders are in the way. So tearing apart the front end in the field just makes sense, even if it means I'll find more things I've got to figure out. Once the fenders are out of the way, I can swap on the extra sets of tires it came with and roll it into the garage for a proper diagnosis. Oh. I guess the fenders weren't my problem after all. Now that I think about it, Audis of this era used cheap aluminum control arms. They were super light, but they'd bend if you looked at them wrong, which did actually have its benefits. In the event of a crash, they would be the first things to bend, most of the time saving the structural parts from actually getting damaged. So that's good, I guess. But I can't put a goddamn wheel on now. The new step 1 to fixing the RS. Why not take the control arms off and bend them back into place? Well, I know why. Found out pretty quick, too. These control arms are completely and utterly bananaed. So given that it's the end of summer, 104 degrees, and I really don't want to be doing a full suspension rebuild next to a building with AC, this new plan, very short-lived. And now I need a new plan. And I'm thinking one that's a bit more caveman, like just plain dragging the damn thing. That, or I guess somehow find a wheel that could clear the brakes and the body of the car. What if I intentionally forget to inflate this space-saving spare? Is that how you're supposed to use these? Absolutely not. It's dangerous and irresponsible. But it's also not the right question. Is it small enough to work? Well, if you completely disregard your own safety, yes it is. Now I just need to actually find a way to move it. Well, I guess in hindsight, the air in the wheels is part of the reason they roll so well. God damn.
Shut it down like a trunk getting closed, and they ain't on this level, bro, you really not close. Even in the summer, told them that it's so froze. Not talking about bass when I say I get low. I've been trying to get.
Step 2 of quote-unquote rebuilding this wrecked RS. Actually diagnosing the car. In all honesty, I don't really know much about this car, so half of my tearing it apart right now is for learning's sake. I want to know what's wrong with it, and how it was taken care of. The best part about this car is by far the engine. About a month before this car was wrecked, the previous owner actually paid to have a replacement engine put in because he blew the old one. A documented 70,000 mile donor engine. And I guess if I spent that much money and immediately wrecked the car, I'd probably want out of the platform too. I was sold on replaced turbos, replaced timing, and, well, the RS itself. Plus, of course, all the parts it came with. It seems like the more the car comes apart, the longer the list grows. There is just a lot. And I figured that since the car came with so many spare parts, that splitting my time was the best option. Swap in the parts I already have that need replaced, and spend my extra time trying to find the ones I don't have. A task I was already hitting a brick wall with. There are no new options for fenders, hoods, or bumpers for this car. They just don't exist. So after chatting with some friends, I decided to cross-reference those parts with cars they're shared with and put out a request to all the junkyards in the country. Clearly the front suspension on this car is very mangled. There's no way for me to really know if both sides are damaged or if both sides need control arms swapped, so all I can really do is compare them side to side and make sure that they are symmetrical when I'm done. Because right now there's about a 15-degree difference, and that would probably explain why the wheel on this side is hitting the body of the car. Destroyed bushings, bananaed arms, all of it needs swapped. And to the seller's credit, it did come with a bunch of control arms, so I might as well swap them on and see if that makes a difference. Something tells me that this is probably the control arm that took most of the weight. Just a hunch. And while I did find a smoking gun, it would be pretty foolish to not swap the other control arms while I have them. Plus the seller was kind enough to throw in the exact ones that I'm gonna need. So I don't need to spend any more money. If this was any indication of the parts-finding prowess of the previous owner, I'm a little worried about the other parts it came with that he claimed fit. And I'm a lot worried about the ones that he said wouldn't. Like the front core from a naturally aspirated car. At this point, I highly doubt that's gonna do much. Guess I just hope I can use something. At least this whole control arm mishap got me going down the rabbit hole of shared parts. I learned that so long as they share an aluminum upright, there are other cars that the upper control arms, which it didn't come with, cross-reference to. Ironically, one of which I already own, and I still have spares for. Granted, this is a complete coincidence, but no reason not to take advantage of it. One side was now completely replaced, and I figured to keep things symmetrical, I would do the exact same on the other side. And given that side wasn't bent by a wreck, it took about 30 minutes in total, as opposed to 3 days. Much better. The suspension is finally equal side to side. Unfortunately, I still have 0 leads on cosmetic panels. And I know I shouldn't be worried about this soon in a rebuild on a car that doesn't even run and drive yet, but considering I want that before the finish line, and every single junkyard in the country that had a body panel that would cross-reference sent me an email saying that they do not ship body parts, and this "we don't ship body parts" response was identical for every other junkyard in the country that had something that would work. And in addition, I learned that the factory oil cooler, for some reason, is $1,000. I'm a bit worried. What if getting a pair of these fenders isn't possible? I guess all I can do is ask the Facebook group next. And while I wait, work on something that I already have the parts, hopefully, to fix. Like the fact these rear pads are non-existent, but thankfully it came with replacements. And they actually look correct. Why they weren't switched before when he had them? Very good question. Maybe, perhaps, and just spitballing here, maybe rear brakes would have helped the car not get wrecked. I don't know, at least the parts are nice. I'm not finishing this by the end of summer, am I?
He is mine.
The Facebook group was shockingly helpful. I was introduced to a man who lives in Canada and exclusively breaks apart wide-body C5s, RS's, V8 A6's, the works. He didn't have any bumpers in stock, so I'll have to figure out something with mine, but he did have and was willing to ship 2 wide-body fenders in the same color. So very quickly, after about a month and a half of searching, what could be some of the only fenders on the continent that'll work for my use case are now on their way. This just might be possible. I just need to get the front end sorted. Sure, it might be a rabbit hole, but what's the worst that could happen? Might as well take it apart and jump right in. I'm noticing it's not stock. I don't know enough to know why it's different, but I know that it is. And from the looks of it, there's an extra cooler with lines running to the transmission, which I guess makes sense as the previous owner told me that the owner before him paid to have this transmission taken apart and built better than factory. Why you would spend money on a built Tiptronic, I don't really know, but I'm not complaining. And given I'm also not seeing a secondary air injection system, the fancy stabilized suspension, or the radiators for the intercoolers, I'm thinking a lot of the mods that this car had were to delete old systems that were known to be unreliable. That's why instead of a complex series of coolant hoses and passages running in and around the intercoolers, there's just like 6 metal pipes that go from side to side. That removes a lot of over-engineering and makes it way easier to ensure the car isn't leaking. And to be honest, I think it's a good thing since there's just going to be less I have to worry about when putting it back together. Oh. The already impossible to find fenders were randomly selected, opened, and then sent back and forth across the border until they were lost. Not even the original carrier has any way to tell where they are now. So that really sucks. Literally all I can do is wait, try and distract myself, and hope something shows up.
God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear of what he's created.
This car has a timing belt. It's on the front, it's identical to the system I have on one of my other cars, and my worry is that since it needs to be replaced so frequently, it needs to be replaced right now. Thankfully, and somehow, I was worried for absolutely nothing. The water pump looks basically new, the belt looks basically new, and other than it being slightly dirty in there, everything checks out, which is, surprising. But I can't get too excited yet. It doesn't run. I need to fix all the systems in the front core that were damaged from the wreck, starting with the radiator. If it can't hold the coolant, nothing else really matters. Now, finding a replacement, though, is not going to be as simple as just buying one. It's large enough for the V8, has one additional port for the automatic, and then a second additional port for the turbos. That combo only exists on this car, and they were discontinued years ago. And the only aftermarket option costs $1,000 and is rumored to not be made either. So that's sick. Unless there's some alternative, I'm kind of stuck looking for one that will work. But maybe there is. Well, thanks, Internet, but it's not like it's that simple. Hold on, isn't this naturally aspirated V8 radiator the exact same as the free one that came with the car that's currently in my shed that the previous owner said wouldn't work? Because what? There's no way. I mean, let's assume it does. According to this, the only way to get it to work would be by deleting all the extra cooling systems that this car already has deleted. Huh. Come to think of it, this is not this car's first wreck. So what if someone already had to deal with this? What if this RS radiator that I've been trying desperately to find a replacement for was never actually an RS radiator to begin with? Oh my god. Well, the spare that came with the car is exactly the same as the one that I took off it. Someone's already dealt with this part being non-existent. That's why the car was simplified. And it was probably done by the owner before the one I bought the car from, which is why he didn't know that the spare he already had would have fixed his problem. So I guess I can just swap it back in after I've fixed the dented metal. That's kind of the best thing that's happened yet. And now that I'm looking at this, I also lucked out with the frame damage. This corner is the only place that doesn't measure up to where it was from the factory. And both thankfully and coincidentally, the only thing this corner really supports is one bolt of the fender and a redundant bolt for the front core. And while the right fix might be to use a donor car, in the case of this car, one I haven't actually driven, I don't care if it's pretty, it's not going to affect structure, so it's just got to be close. Same thing goes for the rest of the dented parts. For me to learn if this RS sole is all it's cracked up to be, temporarily MacGyvered is more than fine. At least the AC worked before I broke it. Whoops. It had been about 2 weeks since the fenders were officially lost. Nobody knew where they were. But then, one morning, as if out of nowhere, something showed up. One huge box and one smaller one. Weirdly, the small one said A4 on it. That can't be right. And it wasn't. Turns out Customs managed to have a second oopsie, and when I called the guy I bought them from and sent him pictures of what I received, we both agreed that I somehow got half of somebody else's order. One wide-body fender and one fender for an A4, a fender he sent to someone else, someone who didn't get my other fender. The other wide-body fender is now well and truly lost in the abyss that is the US Customs Service. Thankfully, the person I bought it from would be willing to send me another one when he gets another set, but no idea when that would happen. So once again, all I can do is wait. I fixed all the problems in the AC that I might have caused, and I found a pair of used intercoolers for the car. These were a pretty good find given they were from a junkyard that didn't quite know how expensive these generally are. Plus, they're complete and still have the auxiliary radiators, so I guess I could recreate that system if I ever wanted to. Maybe I can find some sort of a universal one that's cheaper. I mean, it's not like it's anything really special. Come to think of it, there's probably a lot of parts I could do that for. I mean, there's a lot of hoses on this car that need swapped. Other systems even. So if I just can't find the original parts, or they're egregiously expensive, why not replace it with something that works and doesn't have those problems? And I can do that for more than hoses too. Sure, this oil cooler isn't leaking, but it's also dented to the point that it might actually impact flow. So might as well give this car a bit of an upgrade, increasing the cooling for a fifth of the price.
Fate had brought me a dead body and a live infant. It was all.
It was?
Take the infant's brain out and put it in the phone.
Oh my god. I was tempted to drive this car without a fender, so I'm unbelievably happy it's here. Now there's a slight chance this car won't look like complete garbage. All I've got to do is put it on, stand back, and it's not the same color. It's actually not even close. Well, I guess at least it has fenders now. Naturally, of course, the battery had died. And it wouldn't hold a charge even though I had it plugged in for 2 weeks. So I had to go buy a battery. At this point, I'm not even surprised. This car has not been started in a long time, and all of the systems I re-engineered are jerry-rigged at best. I'm expecting chain slap and misfires if it runs at all. My confidence? Near non-existent. So if it runs, even poorly, I'll call that a success. sounds normal. Why does it sound normal? No leaks at all. How in the... And it just needs topped off with oil because it's the first time I started it, but no metal. And this would explain the only weird fan noise I heard. There's no way that this is just a running car? Well, I guess I can put it back together. This car came with 4 pairs of headlights, and actually none of them are for this car. Well, other than the ones that were on it, but I only have one of those. So unless I want to jam an all-road one in there, I think for the first drive, I'm gonna rock it without. And I guess that means this amalgamation of a car now has fenders and a hood from an A6, 6 different brands of hoses, the wrong headlights, a random universal oil cooler, probably shouldn't be alive still, and above all, questionable repairs. It's imperfect. And maybe that's not a bad thing. The only thing it's still missing is a bumper, which, for the love of God, I wish I had an answer for. Repairing it wouldn't be too bad if it weren't for how plastic actually works. There are 2 general types of plastic. One you can melt and reform, and one you can't. In other words, one you can plastic weld, and one that just goes up in smoke. No matter how much I wish it wasn't, in reality, this is that second type of plastic. Just about all German cars are. To fix this bumper, it would probably be a couple weeks of work reforming it and reshaping it with Bondo and epoxy. Is that even worth it? The right answer would probably be waiting for Fenderman to find me a bumper. So what do I do right now, though? I could run the car without a bumper, but I feel like it'll just look hideous. Huh. Hideous. In the grand scheme of fixing this bumper, how much more time will a few extra holes really add? Well, it's like a $3,000 RS6 bumper. I'm not gonna do that. It's a sin. It's sacrilegious. I'd have to be insane to even consider. Wow, this car looks terrible. It adds character, that's for sure. Yeah, it's idling great. We're not overheating. Oh, that's sick. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. It needs a lot, but overall, it ran well, it drove well, and the following week, it just kept doing that. It was more than just a drivetrain. It was a car. An interesting looking car, but a car. Some replacement headlights showed up, and I even fixed a few boost leaks. Shock of all shocks, the car still wasn't really leaking anything. Now, it's not the prettiest RS out there, but that's okay. It does something a lot of them nowadays don't. It drives. And what more could you really want from a car that was basically free? So I guess there's really only one question left. Does the soul that actually makes this car an RS actually live up to the legends? Abso-goddamn-lutely. I thought this car would be similar to the S6, the one-step-down model, and this would be just slightly better. Well, that is just not the case at all. This doesn't feel remotely close. It's unhinged. Jesus Christ! It's starting to make absolute sense to me why the only commercial this car ever had was of a bull. The car wasn't even in the commercial. It was simply a man trying to hang on. And undead amalgamation or not, that's kind of what this still is. The whole time I've had this car, I've been struggling to figure out what it is. Seriously, what is this thing? Is it a working engine in a flawed car? A perfect RS soul trapped in a flawed body? Maybe it was left dead for a reason. It's not like that was ever not the case though. The RS drivetrain was more than the C5 chassis it was shoved into was ever designed to handle. It was always an unhinged soul trapped in a normal body, imperfect from birth. So, even given everything I've done, and the fact that it looks like this, has anything really changed? Or is this car the exact same as it always has been? A car brought back from the dead, one that was from birth, and forever will be, inherently flawed, yet lives on, as if to only spite that very fact.